Right. Yeah. That's what they're saying, anyways. But it's being described as the Sistine Chapel of the ancients, and it's just really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
They look really well
the art.
preserved, which
Oh,
is
it
amazing.
looks like it was something was just made. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just unbelievable. They used red ochre to actually create these paintings, and it's I don't think but they're saying that depicts not only these animals, but it depicts like people like dancing, and people working,
Wooden
and people
structures,
hunting,
like those
wooden
wooden
structure.
towers people seem to be bungee jumping off
Yeah.
of.
Help.
Well, as you all can hear, Mike is doing well right now.
I
I'm
may
I'm hoping that
get vaporized here.
I got us started just in time for you to get blown up, but we'll see what happens. We're following your dot on the screen. Anyway, in the meantime, welcome everybody to another day of No Man's Sky Archaeological Survey. We're with the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and I am Tristan, and my co-host here is Mike, and so we are actually here in No Man's Sky, and our goal is to find signs of player activity so that we can record them. Basically, player activity is an expression of human behavior in the past, even though it's more recent past, and we're going to treat that as like a little mini archaeological site when we find something, because I'm still going to hold on to that, even though we are quite a few weeks in, we had not found anything. But as of last week, we started about 150,000 light years closer to the core. So we're sitting about 500, 550 light years out still. And I'm hoping that as we get closer, we are going to actually start to see more signs of player activity, but we'll find out. And I just saw your dot disappear, but that's because you landed.
Yeah, I was. No, I did not land.
Oh,
I did. I did not land. I was defeated for the first time. For the
well,
first time, I was defeated by pirates.
there
Pirate
goes
scum.
there goes that title. You can no longer
There
say
it is. I
undefeated
know.
ever again.
I know. Well, you know what they say. People like the underdog, so now
Yeah,
I'm the underdog.
yeah. So I'm actually going to jump off to my mine real quick and grab us some fuel, but I think you probably should have enough for this time, right? Because I gave you a ton last time.
Yeah, I should be. Yeah, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of fuel cells to keep
So
me
I'll be
going
right
for.
back to in that system.
Do you got any better photons?
You mean better fuel or
No, I need
weapons?
better weapons. I need
I
better
mean,
firepower here.
built into my ship, but I'm not exactly positioned to come help you right now.
Well, they're gone now.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
like to think that they were scared away.
I think
They
that's got
saw
to
that
be
I
the
was coming
case.
back, and they
Like,
were,
oh man, we can't handle that again. We're getting out of here.
that's right. They said, we're out of ammo. We can't damage his ship anymore.
Right.
We're out. So we are in. I guess we're in the same. Are we in the same system that we were
We
last time?
we moved once, and we
Oh,
didn't.
you've left the system. You've left
I
my
have,
system.
because I'm getting
Okay. Well,
fuel.
don't. Oh, okay. But I guess my question is, are we done with this system?
Nope,
Do you
we
remember?
were not done.
No. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I'm gonna get a head start.
All right.
Maybe. Okay. If I can actually find one that you haven't already visited, that's the real question. Maybe I just found one.
There should be a fair
It's
few, I
like,
think.
yeah, I think I may have actually found one. I'm gonna go ahead and write it in. Maybe this is the one system with
Hmm.
player activity, and maybe a player will even be on the base building it.
To shoot you for trespassing.
Yeah, should in that case should we do some ethnography?
With their bullets.
Asking questions. that's I'm pretty sure against the ethical
Yeah.
standards of cultural anthropologists who those are the people who do those types of things. Although I think there's I my understanding is that archaeologists are more commonly now looking at oral histories and traditions and talking to community members to kind of gather those stories as well. But I guess,
Mhm.
you know, in American archaeology anyways, it's all part of anthropology. So
Yes.
all goes together. Which I guess in the British model it's not that way.
No, archaeology is a part of history. I think I've always understood it to be just Europe, but it could be different depending on which country you're
Oh
in.
yeah.
Right.
And they spell it differently.
They do. No, I've always
Do
understood
they?
that was a, a U.S. government thing.
Oh, is that a US government thing?
Maybe that's
Let's
malarkey, but
maybe you're wrong.
maybe.
I call them malarkey.
I thought I remembered hearing that it was basically the government thought they were going to save money by taking an A off, which sounds
I
like
think you're. I
baloney.
think
So
you're right. Yeah, it looks like they spell archaeology the correct way in the British, some of the British societies, anyways. So I stand corrected for the first time ever.
man, this is a lot of firsts. First defeat. First
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 defeat.
time you're wrong.
First time we find a player-based settlement, maybe.
Yes, I think that is the trend here now. So I think it's a
I think
given.
I'm going to predict there's going to be another first too.
Okay, what's that? I'm gonna guess what
That-
the name of your ship
Yes,
is.
yes, you will.
No, actually, I did that once already. So, haha,
Okay, that's true.
just once, but I still did it.
Well, does that? I don't think that should count.
That one doesn't count.
That one doesn't count anymore. All right. Well, I'm looking around here, and I'm not. Oh, look at that! Just two little lonely planets. And
Nice
the moon.
quick one.
Speaking of planets, have you been following this? You know, I don't know what you call it. This
Convergence?
celestial event. Yes, the convergence of what is it? Jupiter and
The
Saturn
Great
or Mars?
Conjunction.
The
Okay, what movie is
that what
that
it's
from?
called?
The Great
I
Conjunction.
know it, but I don't want to say it because
You don't know it.
I don't want to ruin it. No, I don't. What is that from?
Dark Crystal.
Oh, yes. I should have known that. I should have known that. That was one of my favorite movies to watch when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And it terrified me.
I appreciate it more now than I did when I was a kid.
You know, have you watched the series?
I started, and I think I only saw the first episode though.
Okay.
What'd you think of the
I
series?
didn't.
You didn't.
I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, so I can't really say.
It got canceled too,
Um,
so it kind of
did it?
leaves me less
Bummer.
reason to watch it because it doesn't
Yeah.
have an ending, I guess.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Um,
bummer. That's too bad.
But yeah, I love the original movie because like everything is a puppet. There's like no live action.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that's also one of the few where it's actually a lot of fun to watch the video extras if you get it on like DVD.
Oh, nice.
Because they go into like all the detail on how they built the puppets and how the different teams work on each top puppet, and they had a competition to see who could make the best and most detailed one. And oh my gosh,
It's like how they built the pyramids with the competition.
is that how
Have
they
you
built the
heard
pyramids?
that?
No.
That's years ago. I don't know if this is still like what the kind of academic consensus is, but several many decades ago, maybe even longer than that, the kind of theory was that these people who built the pyramids, they were all slaves, and they just like the Egyptians like beat them and made them build this thing, and then more recent kind of scholarly interpretations are starting to say, well, actually, based on the archaeology, based on some of the translations from the hieroglyphics that they've found, it was more like, kind of like they had teams kind of competing to build sections of it. So it was more like that kind of deal.
Yeah, kind of like so many things, the answer is
Hmm.
it's complicated.
Sure,
It's what
yeah,
it
I'm
seems
sure
to
maybe
come
a little
down
bit
to
of
a lot of
both.
times. And there's no
Hmm.
like real simple answer for how that worked. Because
Yeah,
people are not simple. That is just a good
no,
general rule.
it's true. I mean, except for me, I'm the simple man.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I like
Um,
things nice and
it
orderly.
it's like so there's kind of a idea, and trying to make sure I represent this appropriately that um, different Native American groups made their ceramics in a certain way, and that ceramic method was part of their cultural identity, and it was passed on like I think it's often is thought mother to daughter, but it was passed on within that
Hmm.
culture as part of their identity. They didn't deviate from it. And actually, Dr. John Worth there at University of West Florida had been doing research and was tracking some of these groups around the contact period when there's a lot of disruption and moving around. And he basically found out no, they really kind of just picked up whatever techniques were closest to them,
Mm.
and uh, and it's just basically it comes down to it's not simple. It's actually fairly complicated how
Right,
that all worked, and like that's probably the way it actually worked then, or at least part of the story.
right.
But you know how that sort of thing goes. It always upsets people who are invested in the idea of one idea.
Sure. Well, I mean, that kind of disrupts the idea that you could identify a specific culture based on just the pottery, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
that's like a huge disruption because if that's not the case, then it gets a lot messier,
Well,
at
and
least for archaeologists to figure
and
out.
for anyone who might be listening to that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If someone
Hmm.
comes up with an idea that changes things, people should challenge it. That is how it's supposed to work. I mean, egos get in the way, and it does cause problems that shouldn't technically be there. But even so, it tends to work itself out given enough time.
Hmm.
So it's okay.
I'm right.
Yeah,
I will be right.
this way I have based my career on has to be right, and I can totally understand how people could get that way.
Yeah,
That makes
sure.
just a very human reaction.
Hmm. Well, I'm trying to find another system. Maybe I found one. I think I did. Let me look here. I think you haven't found this one yet. Oh, wait, maybe you did.
Maybe it's the one I'm
No.
warping to right now.
Is it? Which
I
one are
don't
you
know.
warping to?
I can't pronounce
Oh,
any of
no.
these.
Nope. I already. No, you. 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 You found it already. Yeah, but yeah, so Dark Crystal, I was going to ask you if you had ever been to the Jim Henson Museum in, I think,
No.
Atlanta
In
or
Atlanta,
near Atlanta, or I think it's in Georgia or in Atlanta or near
that's
there.
not far from me.
But
If
he's
it
got
wasn't for COVID, then
my wife is a big fan of puppeteering
yeah.
history,
Oh, cool.
mainly Sesame Street,
Hey, that's
but
fine.
she's always wanted to go to I think it's the Jim Henson Museum in I believe it is in Atlanta, but let me make
Well,
sure that
someday when
that's
we're allowed
correct.
to be around people again, we should have a puppeteering party or a Jim Henson party or something.
That's all you. Yeah, it is the Jim Henson Company,
Uh-huh.
and there's an exhibit in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Wait, wait
It's
a
just an
minute.
exhibit.
Is that right? Hold on. Let me get my facts straight. Google, Siri, Alexa. Oh, she came on. Never mind. Um, could have sworn there is a place. I know there's definitely a Sesame Street one. Um, in the Northeast, but I thought there was one in
I
like
mean,
right outside
there's
Atlanta.
gotta be one somewhere, I would think.
Yeah.
There's just too much
Oh,
content
okay.
not to have one.
This is according to Puppet Happenings, Museums, Exhibits. Okay, Atlanta gets world's largest display of Jim Henson artifacts. Expansion of the Center for Puppeteer Arts will not only create a home for Ernie and Bert, but also a new museum and
Who says
expanded
Ernie
global
and
collection.
Bert? No one says Ernie and Bert.
Bert and Ernie,
It's
yeah.
always Bert and
That's
Ernie.
how I always say, yeah.
They
That's
clearly are
what.
not
Yeah,
fans.
so yes, you can find. I guess it's not called. It's called the Center for Puppetry Arts.
Well, that sounds cool
And
anyway.
it is in Atlanta, and they do have a big exhibit. Although I just tried to pull up their website, and looks like it's not loading. But yes, it looks like it is open currently. So it's located in 1404 Spring Street, Northwest 18th in Atlanta, Georgia. Looks like it's ticketed, but if you are into puppets that Jim Henson created, and I'm not sure if some of the Dark Crystal ones are in there or not. They may be, but you can check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
just go
think
online, check it out.
that sounds really. Hey, don't forget to put numbers on planets, by the way.
Oh, which one did I forget to put a number on?
I got it. I fixed it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Just a
Oh, my
reminder.
bad. Gotcha.
Oh man, gotta keep you in
I'm
line.
having a hard time finding ones that you've been to. No? Yeah, I thought I found another one, and you've already been there.
Look,
Considered it too far.
look above the system a bit. I think there's a few up there.
Okay. All right. I will do that.
Yeah, a museum dedicated to puppeteering could be kind of creepy, but also could be just plain fascinating. And frankly, I'd be okay with
Yeah.
either or both anyway, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you ever needed an excuse to go to Atlanta, there's your excuse.
When it's safe to.
See puppets. You can see Bert and Ernie. Yes, when it's. Although I'm sure they, if they are open, like their website says, I would assume that they have some safety protocols in place, like a lot of.
Sure,
A lot of
but
other
at the same
museums do.
time, do I need to
Yeah,
go
I mean-
during a global pandemic? No, I don't. You know, even if there are safety precautions and
true.
everything, I just don't
Yeah.
need to be doing that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
So,
Yeah, I'm not going. That's for sure. Not now, right? Anyways.
right. Is that all? That's all.
But I'm just not having any luck with systems here, man.
We are getting low, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Want me to just
No.
warp to one and then you warp to me?
No, I'm good. I don't
Okay,
need your charity.
that's fair.
You can. I'll find one, and then I'll think, oh, you don't have it, and then I look, and then nope, it's not available. You have done it, sir.
I've been everywhere,
Yeah, I saw that,
man.
But so, anyways, we mentioned the convergence. Is that what you called it? The convergence
Or conjunction, if you want to go.
conjunction.
Yeah.
So it's just these planets are aligning basically.
Right. Well, they're very, very close in this case. I guess they're not technically aligning, but
Okay.
um,
Well, that's exciting. I mean, I have over the last few weeks and months spent more time kind of just going outside when it's dark and clear outside and just looking up
yeah.
because and yeah, I mean the Jupiter and Saturn are totally and Mars are totally visible. Pretty cool. Just look up. I think I found one. Maybe I'm gonna go to it.
Check
And
check
if
me
you've
out
already been
anyway.
there, I'll just
Make sure I've done it
I'll
right.
check. Sometimes you have to go and check the work, right?
Right.
Sure.
Because maybe there's a dozen bases in that, and I somehow missed it.
Oh man, you weren't paying attention.
Right. That never happens to me.
Really screwed the pooch.
Huh.
Is that how they say it?
Some people
Puppet.
say that.
And while I am warping to this new system, I am going to check out the exhibits for the Center for Puppetry Arts. I
I
wonder if they. I
ooh,
wonder if they teach puppetry. They must teach it there.
maybe. I
They
found
have
it.
a special exhibit called "Very Merry Puppetry: Puppets of Holiday Past, Present, and Future." Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, see those.
Oh, whoa! Check this out. Muppets, including those from Sesame Street, The Muppet Show, and Fraggle Rock. Listen to this. The gallery also includes figures from The Dark Crystal and
Hey.
Labyrinth.
Oh, and
Dark
Labyrinth.
Crystal and Labyrinth. Yeah, man. Two of my favorite childhood movies. I have to go now. You know, at Bert and Ernie, I was kind of like meh, but when they mentioned Dark Crystal and especially Labyrinth, I have to go see this. I have to go. Even during the pandemic, I think I have to go now. It's worth the risk. Just no, it's not.
See, I didn't see Labyrinth until I was an adult.
Probably not the same then.
I'm sure it's not the same, although I can still kind of appreciate it. I gotta say, it's just so weird. Um, and it's just strange all around, and so I do definitely appreciate it. But
Right,
probably on a different way than I would have as a kid, because it's a strange movie.
right. I uh, I mean, of course, David Bowie is in that movie.
Yeah,
So the
the
music is David Bowie-esque,
the famous Bowie
and it,
bulge.
and it was, this movie came out in the 1980s.
Right.
Oh, you can see. Oh man, they have Oscar the Grouch. Okay, that's another reason to actually go, for sure. Nostalgia is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
It just is. It's so powerful. Do you know it's not powerful? My laser cannons.
We need to get to some upgrades for Christmas.
Definitely.
Christmas lasers.
Yeah, although you did just pay me in a lot of fuel, I
Yeah.
suppose. Might have to go do some work on my own.
It's true, and
On the
part of
side.
my
Do a side gig.
repayment is getting to watch you explode every now and then.
Well, you didn't see it. You didn't see it happen though.
I saw your
I could
dot
have lied.
disappear. I'll take that.
But I could have just said, "Oh no, I just came into the system."
You rage quitted, and
Yeah.
it looks to me like we've got these all covered now.
I'm at this last one here right
Okay.
now just to make sure I haven't missed any planets, and we'd probably be on our merry way.
Yep.
1, 2. Yep, I got them all here, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark this as none. None. There we go. Okay, where to next, Captain?
I'm gonna move us there momentarily. Wagumi. I'm warping now.
Station Galactic Core. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna wait until I see you. Wait, which one did you go to?
Vogumi. You'll see me there in a moment.
Gumi. Let's see if maybe I can. So how do you pick them? You just like, how do you decide?
I set
which
it
ones
towards galactic core, and then I just try and find a reasonable size cluster, about 700 on average. So it's more like 600,
Oh, I
800
see.
light years. So it's,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know,
I
it's
see
not the
it.
most scientific way of finding them, except that, I'm recording how far it is. So I figure that's good, pretty good.
Yeah. Could be better. But
Maybe, yeah. I'll take it though.
No, I'm just kidding. Oh,
Um,
also at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, Georgia, the Velveteen Rabbit is given out as a Christmas gift.
Oh.
Oh wait, I guess it's a.
Oh, wasn't that actually a
What is
thing
this?
where they would um like sell a book with a puppet or something? I
Maybe.
feel like maybe that's what that's based off of. I could be
Mhm.
making that up though.
Yeah, I think so.
We've never done that on this show before.
Snakes. What else?
Yeah,
Well, Barbara's not here, so
she can't correct
we
us.
can, she can't correct us. It's technically her fault then.
Yep,
All
our
right.
fact checker is not present.
Hmm. You're at Vagumi.
Yep.
I'll be there in one jump, one
Okay,
more
I'm
jump.
doing some scans, and then I will drop us a base.
Oh, okay. So if you do go to, here's something that makes you maybe more inclined to go even during the pandemic. Says they will be using time ticketing to ensure low density and social distance in the museum for safety of our visitors and staff. Last entrances are 4 p.m. Man, maybe they'll subscribe if I keep reminding. Oh, whoa! Check this out. Okay, you can take a digital tour of the
Oh,
museum, a virtual tour of the Jim Henson collection online. I just go to their website, puppet.org, and you can actually go and visit it digitally.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. They even have an exhibit about Antarctica. That's interesting. Like that's random. For
Seems
is it
random
like a
anyway.
right? Is it like puppets in Antarctica? I wonder what's the connection there. That's
Yeah.
or maybe it's like a traveling exhibit. That they got to try to bring in more people. That's pretty typical. Practice puppet, penguin hand puppet. Oh, cool. They have programs with puppets built around um, Antarctica, exploring Antarctica. Wow.
Being circled by
When you
predators.
say when you say just like a go to a puppet museum, I think it doesn't sound that exciting
Well,
personally,
to
but
you,
I can
maybe.
see yeah, exactly. So after reading a little bit more, I can see why people would actually think this is pretty cool. It's actually pretty neat.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go to Vuholiviv because it sounds like Valhalla, so I'm going to go there. All right, traveling along. While I travel that, I'm going to excuse me, explore. Oh, well, I'm having. There must be so many people trying to explore this website right now. Having a little problems loading some pages, but that's all right.
Okay, base
Yeah, a
is
lot of
dropped.
museums. I'm a member of the American Alliance of Museums and Florida Association of Museums, and a lot of museums are having a hard time right now. I think some of them may not actually recover. So
Yeah.
for people that can or are willing to visit museums as long as it's safely, I think that's as long as it can be done with safety and in the minds of everybody involved, their comfort levels and all that. But then also there's other ways people can support museums, especially now during the kind of this upcoming holiday with a lot of the different gift giving that takes place, regardless of whatever holiday you celebrate during this time of year. A lot of museums have online stores that you can purchase stuff for your family and friends who you love, or maybe who you don't even like. Maybe they hate museums, and you could just buy something.
Maybe they're creeped out by dolls,
That's
and you can
right,
buy them a
puppets or something.
puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a way that if you don't want to go, understandably, to a museum right now because of concerns about COVID, you can still support them by also through memberships. And that's another good way, or just donating. For I don't know, some people that I know, they don't like getting stuff every year. I mean, I'm kind of like that. I just I don't need a lot of stuff, but for people like that, you can always make a donation in their name to like a museum, and it can be like really big ones like this, whatever big ones in your area, but there's also a lot of small museums, local museums that could definitely use support through donations or through gift certificates or buying stuff through their museums. store that can really go a long way right now.
And for more
So good.
information, donate to
Yeah,
Destination Archaeology
write,
Center.
write, write your check to Mike. Yep, yep. Yeah, actually, um, I mean, there's plenty of ones out there that are probably going to weather the storm because they had been fortunate enough to have certain funding through local government or state government or even federal government. So, like the Naval Aviation Museums are going to be fine. Not that they can't use donations. I'm not saying don't, but they'll be able to withstand the times right now. Whereas some of these other smaller ones that really are just their only funding source comes through attendance or field trips or people buying stuff in the gift shop. Um, they're going to have a hard time. So there's a lot of local, especially like I'm sure our area is not unlike most other areas where about a third of our museums out of the 60 or 70 museums that we have in Northwest Florida are considered small museums,
Hmm.
and that's so a third of them. So that's imagine if a third of them just don't survive. That's a significant number and a huge loss for local communities who the museums in these some of these more rural areas might be the only place of that has opportunities to experience culture and history for their local school kids. Is that's the only place they can do it
Well,
because
especially
they
their
can't
own culture and history. That's usually what
exactly
the focus
yeah
of these too.
yeah
And
so it's not like they can in some of these areas they can bus kids to Tallahassee or Pensacola. They're
well, and Tallahassee doesn't have like their their
Mhm.
community's history either.
Right, right, yeah,
That's also worth keeping in mind. Yeah.
right. So that's my the more you know moment.
Space soapbox.
Right. What else? What else can I
Go rant on about.
what I can rant or complain about? I got quite a few things I can rant and complain about. I don't know if we want to go in that direction.
It might be.
It's called Mike Soap. We'll just change the name from No Man's Sky to Mike Soapbox.
Yeah.
Mike's complaining. It's corner. Uh,
Wine with
ah.
Mike.
Oh man, that's a good one. And I'll have a glass of wine and I'll just complain about stuff.
Yeah.
That's our next YouTube playlist. Wine with Mike.
It
I just
sounds
have a
like a
wine
terrible idea, but I've heard of weirder ideas working out. So,
and just for 20 minutes I just rant and complain about things.
I mean, it could be kind of a alternate form of drunk history if you do it right too.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. Yeah, I think with drunk history usually they have them drink liquor, although I may be wrong about that. I'm not sure if they even do drunk history anymore. They might.
I don't know if it's still going on. I just
Yeah.
know there are quite a few episodes for a while.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, some of them.
And they got pretty official, didn't they? I think they started off pretty like
Yeah.
low budget, and then like
Mhm.
last time I was watching them on like Hulu, they had like Weird Al acting as
Yeah.
one of the people in history and stuff. And like,
That's great.
wow,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Wish I would have thought of that first and
Right,
done it.
right.
So wine with Mike it is. For someone, I'm sure there's probably a bunch of other stuff already out there like that. Probably.
Probably.
I like when starting out in these galaxies or systems because I can actually visit
Yeah,
places you haven't been to yet.
it's not as hard to find new ones.
Mm-hmm. Very true. So we're about we're doing good on time here.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well.
So have you read any cool archaeology articles?
I read the
sent you
ones
one.
you sent
I don't
me.
know if you-
Yeah,
the one that I sent you.
there were a couple, but it was the same subject. But yeah, I thought
Mm.
that was a
Oh,
good one to
was
talk
it the same
about.
stuff? Yeah.
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 So have at it.
Yeah. So, so apparently, and if you want to see this article, you can go to our Facebook page, or maybe we can put a link up there or something. The
Or
um,
just do a search
just
for it. It's all over right
just do a
now.
search. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty big right now. But there's this the archaeologist. The headline of this the particular one is archaeologists uncover trove of ice age paintings in Colombian Amazon, and so apparently there's this rock art at this site in the Amazonian jungle in Colombia that researchers, I guess, stumbled upon. I guess a couple years ago, is
Yeah.
my understanding. But I guess they didn't realize like how many of them there actually were. But there's literally tens of thousands of these paintings strewn across 8 miles of cliff faces that date back to the Ice Age. And the reason why they know that is because I guess they did some archaeology, like right underneath the kind of cliff faces, so they were able to get some good context with carbon dates, and that
Well,
dated back to the
part of the
Ice
reason,
Age is
as
from
I
what.
was reading, part of the reason they think Ice Age is because they actually depict Ice Age animals, like
Right,
really,
I was
really
gonna get to
clearly.
that
Oh,
next.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's the other one too, right? Although, I was looking at it and I'm like, where are I guess there's like a whole, it's 8 miles of uh you know, rock art
Right.
on these cliffs. So, but the image that they had up on this one article anyways, I guess said that there's depictions of like mastodons, which of
Yeah.
course, you know, died off, you know, 9,000 years ago. They went extinct, so it has to date back to at least then. But yeah, and the big question I think that the article kind of touches on is, I guess, number one, the site is preserved because it's been in an area there's a lot of instability with FARC, with kind of a guerrilla uh, group that has been sort of it's a paramilitary group that's been essentially at war with the central government for many decades. And there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of kind of drug trade involvement in there. So apparently in an area that was controlled by this paramilitary group for a long time. So that's probably one
Yeah,
reason
so
why
it was and
it's kind
still
of been
probably is quite
successful.
dangerous.
Right. Yeah. That's what they're saying, anyways. But it's being described as the Sistine Chapel of the Ancients, and it's just really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
They look really well
the art.
preserved, which
Oh,
is amazing.
it looks like it was something was just made. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just unbelievable. They used red ochre to actually create these paintings, and I don't think but they're saying that depicts not only these animals, but it depicts like people like dancing, and people working,
Wooden
and people
structures,
hunting,
like those
wooden
wooden
structures.
towers. People seem to be bungee jumping off
Yeah,
of.
right. Yeah, that was so cool. So apparently the cliff face that these are located on, like you cannot climb to them.
No.
The only way they are able to see them is with drones. So the big question was, well, how did they get up that high, and then why were they going up that high to create this artwork? And one of the speculative answers for how they got up there is there are, like Tristan said, there's these depictions of what do look like these kind of scaffolding structures, which to think that people, that's kind of an amazing idea to think that during the Ice Age people were constructing scaffolds to reach these high up areas to create rock art. But of course, the other side of that is, well, why not? I mean, people do it now, so why wouldn't they do it back
Sure.
then? Um, and so that's
But
that's
it
one kind
does
of theory
indicate
right now.
a lot about their society at the time. You know, if you're living just
Mhm.
on the edge, you're not constructing temporary scaffolds to paint pictures on the wall. Typically, you're gonna,
Right,
that
right, yeah.
implies some level of stability and complexity. I think
Hmm.
maybe it's not quite the right terms, but
Yeah,
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 it gives
yeah.
some indications about the society though, and that's kind of cool.
Right, that it's not as it's much more sedentary than they previously kind of the ideas about
Right.
some of these paleo, what they call quote unquote paleo Indian groups were like, where the kind of the long-standing idea has been that these were small bands of hunter gatherers that were just kind of following the animals that they were hunting across the Americas, whereas this would indicate that, well, if they're creating this sheer amount of um, rock art up that high, that there must have been a lot more of a settlement happening that was more permanent than what was previously thought, which is pretty interesting. I also wondered too, though, like, is this rock art, was it created in, they got. I'd be interested to learn more about, like, the carbon dates and where they got it from, and whether or not some of these, is this something that was continuously used over
Mm-hmm.
a long period of time, or was it created by, like, relatively quickly in one particular period? I mean, I'd be interesting. I mean, I get the idea that if they're making ice aged animals, then that's going to kind of indicate that it's was taking place during the ice age. But just the sheer amount.
We've got 8 miles of the stuff, so it could depend on what
Yeah.
area you're in. Could date to a different time period or something.
Hmm.
And even like the ice age, that's at this point would be, I think, like you said, like 2 or 3 thousand years. That's
Right.
that's a long
Yeah.
time to be painting stuff too.
It
So
is. Right.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
questions here, and that's always the case especially when you find something new like this. You don't know exactly what's going on.
Uh huh.
Despite what the news articles think, it's not all figured or suggest it's not all figured out. There's
Right.
a lot of
Right.
things we'll be hearing about for some time. I think actually
Yeah.
one of the archaeologists is quoted saying this will take generations to study. Um,
Right. Yeah.
so it's going to be a while.
Hmm. But it's super. I mean, it's really cool, the idea that some of these just haven't been discovered yet, or unknown, or the idea that, luckily, fortunately, not everything has been discovered and been accessible to people for people to damage.
Right.
Because a
Yeah.
lot of rock art, I know out west there's big problems with people defacing rock art and taking it
Oh,
off, or
well,
all sorts of really big
I've
problems.
recorded some canyons out west, and you find rock art fairly commonly, and you also find it used fairly commonly as target practice. Like literally,
Yeah,
people are just
yeah,
shooting at it, which is just.
yeah,
I'm going to stop myself from
yeah. It's
swearing,
great.
but
Yeah,
it makes me angry.
yeah. That is like, it's crazy that people do that. But yeah, this is really really cool find, and I guess the in a couple days they're gonna have Channel 4, a British channel. There's a series called Jungle Mystery: Lost Kingdoms of the Amazon, and it's all about this particular find. I guess there's other episodes, but this episode coming up is all about this particular site. So they've known about it for a while, but I've just kind of kept it under the wraps. And I did go and look at the trailer for this series and a couple of the teasers, just to kind of see if I could find a little bit more information about it, just to sound like I knew more about it,
Uh
so
huh.
I could talk about it. And it looks like really, of course, well produced. But I thought one interesting part of at least one of the teasers, if you go on YouTube or wherever they put some of their other teasers at for this series, is there's a scene where there's a host of the show. She's described as a paleoanthropologist. I'm not sure if she is. She might be. It doesn't say doctor from her, but her name is Ella Al Shamanhai, and I guess she's been, she's trained as an archaeologist, and apparently she's been a presenter for a lot of these, or at least a few of these other TV series like this. And so she goes out in the Amazon and she meets up with this Colombian archaeologist, and he tells her, like, oh yes, they do some, like, lidar. They show her some lidar of some of the sites, and they said, oh, we're going to go out here tomorrow to see if we can ground truth it. And they walk out in the woods with this guy, and they're cutting through the jungle, and then he comes across this ridge, and he's like, yes, this is it. See, here's the ridge, here's the steps. And then she was like, oh, this is the first time. So this is the first time archaeologists have been here. And he's like, yes. And then the very next thing, they start talking about how there were 200 people here, and this dates back to 500 AD. And I'm thinking, how did you know all that?
Yeah.
You
Cause
know what I mean?
yeah.
And how did like, if this is the first time you've ever been to this site, then how could you possibly? and in the scene, like he doesn't say like, oh, here's a piece of they found pottery and it typically dates from this period. No, it was just like, oh, this is a ridge, and I'm thinking, well, I mean, it could be man made, but like, how do you really know that? And so that just kind of I think that's and we've talked about this before. I think a lot of these shows that portray archaeology, and I know specifically like the Drain the Ocean series, and they work with archaeologists, and it's really great content. I'm glad it's out there, but in those shows, they're portraying these episodes as if the research and the finds are happening right there for the
Mm-hmm.
audience, when in
Yeah.
fact, at least in those shows, this is research that and discoveries that were done like 10, 15 years ago. And that's why they know all this information, because they've been working on it for such a long time. And so my thought with this show is, well, maybe that at this particular site, the reason why they know that information is because it's not a site that they
Well,
just
we
found.
know they've been working on this for a year, so
Yeah,
that's
exactly. So,
exactly what's
and
going
I,
on.
I and I guess the question that I have, though, because I definitely think that, of course, I understand why documentaries and TV shows that feature archaeological research in them, that have that kind of as the storyline, because it's an important way to keep people engaged. If they feel like they're part of the discovery,
Sure.
I get that, but I think that maybe a question that should be asked, or at least thought of, or maybe it has been, and the answer's out there, and it just I'm not aware of it, but is that actually ethical to do
Mm-hmm.
that? And the reason why I say that is because I think about, I've done so many like tours of archaeological sites that I've given locally, here in the Panhandle, and so I was thinking, like, what if, say that I take people on a tour, and I take them to a site, and when we get to the site, I tell them, oh my gosh, this is the first time we've ever found that, this must be a site. This is the first time we ever found it, and portray it, and make them feel like they're part of this discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we don't loot anything, if we just kind of look around, but in reality, it's a site that's already been known, that's already been researched, and that's why I know that. Would that be unethical for me to do that?
Yes.
So I guess it's a simple answer. So
So
I guess then
this
the other
is
question is, what's the difference between me doing that and then them doing for these TV shows?
I
Is
would
there a difference?
say there's potentially not a lot. This is actually a question I've wrestled with a little bit as well, as far as how do we interpret the past? Because there are, if you talk, half the archaeologists at least, you talk to them about their favorite site, you are going to get just overwhelmed with facts and details because they know it so well in and out, and they almost seem to like they can't not tell you everything they know.
Right.
Whereas interpretation, you don't want to do that. You don't want to overwhelm your audience with facts. You need to be able to choose what kind of point you want to make and then select things that you want to share. And so then it becomes a question of, well, how do you select what goes in and what goes out? And basically, you have to intentionally omit things that don't help you with your point. To the point where if you're lying about something to make your point, then you are deceiving your audience. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're cutting something out just because it distracts from your point, then you might be okay ethically speaking. And so essentially this is the first problem, it seems to me. Like they are deceiving their audience intentionally, because they don't have faith that this is cool enough. And
Right.
I
Which is
oh,
crazy,
yeah.
right? I mean, I think, to, yeah. And again, I'm not, I don't know if that's what they've done with this particular show. I can say for sure that's what they've done with some of those other ones, and I see it as a pattern that's happening. And I think the the previous kind of model was definitely way worse, right? Like
Yeah.
with the metal detector shows and all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Like, let's just go dig up sites,
Well,
you know.
even
So
there's the
so this is a big.
help me out. There's the British archaeology show that's actually pretty
Time
good.
team,
Time Team.
time
One
team.
of the big
Yeah,
criticisms of Time Team is they behave like all of the answers they've gotten all the answers during the show, which is not how that works
mm,
at all.
right,
So
right.
that's still kind of related to your question and concerns here, I think, too. In that
Mhm.
case, though, that might fall in the other category, but these sorts of things we would need to really sit down and discuss maybe to really figure it out.
Right, yeah.
Because,
And I don't know
yeah.
the right answer for any of this, but what I think the other maybe important point that, for me anyways, is, you know, granted this is definitely better than it's been portrayed in the past on some of these television series,
Mm-hmm.
but reg- regardless of like whatever the researcher's intent was with being involved in some of these projects, ultimately it doesn't, if you don't control the production, if you're not sitting in the editing room, then you are beholden to whatever that director or editor wants wants the narrative to be.
Yeah,
And
and
so
at
I
the
think,
same time, too, there's this idea, like I was kind of saying, archaeologists have trouble letting go of accuracy and details. And so
mhm,
we have to understand too that if you're going to make a TV show, we can't do it the way we would as like 100% perfect accuracy. We have to be able to give a little on some of these things as well. So there is kind of a
mhm,
fine balance gray area that we kind of have to figure out. And from what I've seen of conversations between archaeologists talking about this thing, I mean, I've heard people say that, but then do they are people actually able to let that go,
yeah,
or be able to gauge where are the really critical things, where are the ones we can let go, and that's harder to do, I think.
sure. Yeah, I'm not suggesting it's an easy
No,
answer.
I
And
know you're not.
I'm sure there's a lot of gray areas, but what I do think is it kind of, for me, reinforces this idea that we aren't beholden to necessarily having to work with production companies to tell stories about archaeology, because the technology is there now where anybody, even with if you have like not even the iPhone 12, you have like iPhone from a couple years ago, the cameras on those are so good that you can shoot some pretty good video and get it up on platforms that could potentially reach huge numbers of people.
Although
And
I will say that,
it's not easy,
yeah,
but
and
I think the more archaeologists do that, and the more of them, and the longer they keep at it, then the better it will get.
I think too, though, there is definitely still merit in working with those production companies because they are skilled in telling narratives and making things that are engaged. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
specialty in its own right. So
Well,
there's
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of potential there, I think too.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm not, and again, I'm not suggesting that it's even wrong in this case. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying that, I've had personal experience with. There was a show, and I think I've mentioned this before. Maybe I haven't, but there was a show on a cable channel who they were doing like pirate stuff, and I was contacted to this show a few years ago, and I spoke with like the production people, and I got to, like, I don't know, like a couple different interviews I had with these people, not shooting footage, just them kind of, I think, gauging this idea for a story they had. And basically it came down to, they wanted to tell this case of this alleged act of piracy that never happened.
Yeah.
We knew it never happened. We knew it was made up. We knew why it was made up. We knew who made it up. So I kind of tried to explain that to them, and then but I had what I thought was a pretty good way to still incorporate the story, but then actually talk about some real history that was just as, probably even more fascinating than this fake one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they said, oh yeah, and they were like, it seemed like they were interested in kind of going that route. And then they talked about maybe flying me out to do an interview for wherever they were going to shoot on location. And I never heard back from them, not surprisingly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, maybe 6 months later, the show, that the idea that they had pitched to me initially they had contacted me. I didn't contact. They contacted me because they just wanted information. And they like 6 months later, their idea for the show that I said what the problems with it were,
Mm-hmm.
they actually did.
Yeah.
They did it anyways.
Pirates of the
I
Blackwater.
was like, oh,
Wasn't that
come
it?
on. No, they did it. That was another. Actually, I've been contacted by two different ones. That was one of them they did with the with the what's this guy's name? The Cousteau, the that grandson and
Okay.
the granddaughter. They had a show on one of those channels. Yeah, they did one episode about in this area, and then did another one down in Tampa. I think there were two different shows that they were very similar format, but they were two different shows and two different channels, and they all had to do with like pirate treasure and yeah, but yeah, that one didn't listen to me either. But what was to me it was crazy because if you look at the actual story behind how those kind of legends came about and how there is a grain of truth to some of them in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like the time period and it being a problem in that area, like there is some truth there, but like the larger kind of narrative that they were trying to tell was just kind of rehashing this story that we know was made up for
Right.
tourists, so but the real story, kind of digging into a little bit further, was so much more fascinating, like so many more interesting characters in these made up stories. And they, for whatever reason, because maybe because the buried treasure wasn't involved in the reality, and maybe that's why. And it probably didn't help that the show had that in its title, So like, but I guess my point is like again, like I'm not saying don't work with production companies. Like it's better to work with them than to just like be like no. But I
Let them
think
do
there's
whatever they want.
exactly because that's not going to work.
No.
That we've seen what happens with that.
Right.
And there are organizations that supply. There's a group called Past Preservers where they work with production companies and they have, uh, professional historians and archaeologists that they have through their network that they can, if they need a particular expert to talk to for one of these shows, whatever the subject is, they're able to connect them with the right people, which is awesome. And I'm not suggesting that go away or anything, but I think it's a good argument or a good reason to keep trying to create content, ourselves and get better at it online. I think that, there's
Sure.
clearly room for it. And yeah, do both, but I think that it's just a good reason for us to, after things go back to normal and we're not doing so much online content, to keep up with it, to keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Because I'd hate to see, 6 months from now, the content that's being created now just kind of fall off, drastically.
Right.
I'm sure it will to some extent, just because of, it's a huge time. It's a huge effort that goes into it. And like you said, it really does. I mean, these production companies are very good at what they do. They make very engaging stories, and the qualities is just really, very incredible. But I guess that's my only kind of criticism about some of what I'm seeing. But with that said, it is definitely much better than some of the shows that used to be on.
Yeah,
10
sure
years ago.
seems to be. And we get it, the stories of buried treasure and stuff. Those are fun, fascinating stories, but they're almost all just stories too. So it's worth remembering the difference between the reality and the stories.
And I think the other problem with those, other than they're not true, is it can create a lot of damage.
They lead to people going out there and digging around archaeological sites because they think they're going to find buried treasure.
Yeah.
And I mean, pretty much any archaeologist has worked on sites where that has been the case and that kind of damage has happened. So yeah, definitely.
But anyway, check out that show
Yeah.
coming up. Don't not watch it, called Jungle Mystery: Lost Kingdoms of the Amazon. It looks good, but you know,
Well, it's a
like
new and exciting
anything,
site, even though they
it
may
is.
have
I mean, it's
fudged
so
when they
cool.
found it exactly. It's
Yeah,
still very new and very
yeah.
much going to be something where we'll hear about for a while. So check it
Oh
out,
yeah, it's
definitely.
it's it's incredible. I mean, it is just a phenomenal, some phenomenal site, and I look forward to seeing what researchers are able to figure out from this and what it says about not only the this time period and this particular region, but what it says about human history in general.
Sure. Well, it's 3 o'clock, Mike. You ready to take a break?
Yeah, we're taking a break from Wine with Mike. I'm gonna go refill my glass of wine.
Yep. Yep. So we'll be back in 10 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, we'll leave you with these videos. We'll see you in a bit.
Hey, I'm Mike with the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and today is not a great day for hiking. So instead, I thought what I would do is talk to you all about a really important part of hiking when you're out in public lands, and that is, what should you do if you come across an artifact? So the first thing we got to start with, what are public lands? Well, public lands are lands that all of us own, but that are managed by a state or federal entity. Parks, state forests, wildlife management areas, water management areas, all of those are state public lands. Federal public lands include things like national parks, national forests, national seashores, military reservations. Those are owned by the federal government. Those are all federal public lands. All these public lands, the archaeological sites and artifacts on them are all protected by both state and federal laws. So it's actually illegal to knowingly disturb or remove artifacts from any public land without having a permit. Public lands also include submerged bottomlands. So any body of water that's navigable, so creeks, rivers, lakes, the ocean out to a certain nautical miles, all of those are actually owned by the state and federal government, depending on how far out you are. So all the shipwrecks and all the artifacts out there, even in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean to a certain extent out into the water, are actually owned and protected by those same laws. So the question is, what should you do? If you're out there hiking and you come across an artifact, what's the best thing that you can do? First, try to resist the urge to pick it up. So we want to leave it in place because, again, by removing it, you're actually breaking the law and you can get in trouble for that. And then also, when you start removing artifacts from archaeological sites, it removes a lot of the information that we can actually learn about a site. So it's important to keep it in place. If you have a smartphone, and most of us have smartphones today, the next thing that you should do is take a picture of it. And if you have something for scale, like whether it's a quarter or a dime, most cards in your wallet are pretty much the same standard size, so you can put one of those next to the artifact and take a picture of it to scale. The next thing you want to do after you take a picture is you want to make a mental note, or if you have something to write on or even on your phone, say where you found it at. You want to remember where you found it. Sometimes, especially if you're out hiking in the woods along a trail, you might want to look around at unique features, whether it's a unique looking tree, or maybe there's some a wayside sign nearby that you can help kind of remember where you found it. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to notify the land manager. So that's a really important part too, is just to let them know that you found something. Now, you may have actually come across a site that the land managers already know about, or you may have actually just discovered a new archaeological site that they didn't know about. But even if it is a site that they knew about before, the fact that you found some exposed artifacts might indicate that there's some erosion taking place. So that notifies the land manager so that they know that they should probably come and start monitoring the site. So those are just some quick, easy things that you can do that will keep you safe in terms of not violating the law, and also that will help protect the archaeology in place. So leave it in place, take a photo of it, make a note of where you found it, and notify the land manager. And remember, anytime you're hiking our wonderful public lands, to take only photos, leave only footprints, and I'll see you next time on Hike with Mike.
I am Emma Dietrich. I'm a graduate assistant with the Florida Public Archaeology Network. Scott site is an 1830s brick kiln, which was owned and operated by John Behan, who owned the property over here. He came over and opened up a brick kiln to capitalize on the brick boom that was occurring during the time. So in 1829, we had the coastal fort systems were being constructed, and Fort Pickens, Fort Brenkus, and Fort McGree were all being constructed. So overnight, a large amount of brick kilns opened up, including the Behan Brickyard, which is along the Blackwater River. My thesis is looking at the Milton High School Archaeology project, which involves a high school class from freshmen to seniors who are taking an anthropology elective and a Florida history elective. And once a week, they're able to come out and excavate and learn archaeology firsthand. My thesis specifically is looking at the education side of things and developing the project into a more robust education program, looking at a method of learning called project-based learning, which we can essentially turn archaeology into a single project and follow each step of archaeology, and not only learn your classic anthropology and archaeology, but also bring in your math, your other sciences, graphics, and business skills, and also life skills into the mix. We had graduate students from the University of West Florida who are specializing in archaeology, along with graduates of the department. So the supervisors were all trained in archaeology. They're the ones that the students look to for help if I'm not available.
They're getting to do something that almost no students anywhere are getting to do, and that is hands-on, real-world archaeology from world-class instructors from the UWF students. So it is an absolutely wonderful program.
They're able to connect the archaeology to the history, to the science. They're able to explain why we shovel shave, why we don't just dig holes straight down, why we go in levels. They're able to explain that, okay, this is a brick kiln, there's a lot of bricks, but the bricks are still significant. They're not just something that we do throw away. There's a reason behind it. And it came to a moment where I believe all the students finally realized that they know how to do archaeology, that this is not just a class that they took, they actually learned this skill that will hopefully help them further along. And it's not necessarily about turning these kids into archaeologists, it's about getting them prepared for an actual career or getting them prepared for college.
Hey, I'm Mike with the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and I'm inside our Destination Archaeology Resource Center to reveal the artifact that we posted for our series called What Is It Wednesday? If you guessed that the object that we posted was a shell, then you would be correct. But if you guessed that the artifact that we posted was a shell tool, then you get bonus points because that's exactly what this artifact is. Now this shell is from a gastropod, which is a sea snail. So this is the shell of a sea snail. But the particular type of gastropod this is called a lightning whelk. This lightning whelk shell was actually modified into a tool. So the top part of it was actually knocked out, and then a handle, a stick handle, was inserted through that hole, and then it was tied with some type of cordage to make a tool like a hammer. We know that native peoples often use shell to make all sorts of different types of tools for thousands of years. A good way to identify lightning whelks from other types of gastropods with these single valves, these single mouth openings, is the fact that lightning whelks are one of the only types of sea snails that has an opening on the left. Most other species of gastropods have the openings on the right side. A good resource to find more information about how Native Americans would have modified different shells into tools and jewelry in the state of Florida can be found on our website, and we'll put that link down below in the description of this video. Yeah, Barbara said it doesn't sound like something an intern to be messing with.
Yeah, right.
Printed with a compound containing mercury and sulfur. Does that mean anything to
Could
you?
lick it.
Sure, cinnabar. The Maya would rub it into their most important carvings to add definition to the artist's lines.
Oh. Good thing we asked her.
Mm-hmm.
Does the museum keep cinnabar around?
We use cinnabar here at the museum the same way the Maya did, to keep things as authentic as possible.
What?
Orders those kinds of supplies, but we've been out of stock for quite a while. The last
Are you
I heard,
crazy?
some kind of hold up with the distributor.
What's wrong with you, lady?
So,
Like federal laws with toxic chemicals and stuff being in bodies of water. So yeah, bad idea all
Yeah.
around.
yeah, no,
Bad idea.
not good. That's for the interns. That's why Sonny went a little strange.
Yeah, it's all making sense.
Oh man. Actually, let me look up mercury poisoning. Hey, I'm Mike with the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and today I'm inside our Destination Archaeology Resource Center to reveal what artifact we posted for our series called What Is It Wednesday. Now, if you guessed that the artifact we posted was a melted piece of metal, you would be absolutely 100% correct. And if you guessed that the artifact was a copper ingot, then you get bonus points because that's exactly what this particular artifact is. When the Spanish began to colonize North, Central, and South America, they were really interested in one main thing, and that was all the natural resources that they could extract from these areas and then ship back to Spain. This copper ingot came from a shipwreck that sank on the east coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean in the year 1715. This was a treasure fleet that was scheduled to go back across the Atlantic. However, they were susceptible to things like hurricanes, and that's exactly what happened. In 1715, a hurricane struck and sank most of the fleet. The copper ingot was metal that was mined, and then it was melted and poured into a mold. Usually, they would just scoop an area in the sand and then poured this molten copper in it. And then once it cooled down, it would be hardened into this current shape that it is today. If you want to learn more about Spanish treasure plate fleet wrecks and all the different artifacts that have been found associated with these wrecks, I highly recommend going to the website Florida History in 3D.
Name's Cat.
All right. So, sorry to cut Cat off there. We're going to keep going.
Story of his life.
So, yep. Back at it in No Man's Sky here. Keep on surveying. We got data to collect. Fuel to burn.
That's right. I got a lot of that. Fuel to burn.
You're welcome.
I'll probably need some more in season 3. All right. Well, I'm coming back to our home system.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what is still out there. All right. Looks like you've been a busy bee.
There's a bunch.
Busy bee.
There might be a
I have
few
no
left,
fuel.
though. You have no fuel. Well, you should have in your storage.
Oh,
though.
I have fuel. I just
Yeah.
need to,
Yeah.
refuel. There we go. Oh, I need to refill a couple other things too. Not my wine glass. That is empty right now.
All tapped out.
I haven't poured it yet. That's for later.
Uh,
That's for when the kids get home. I'm just kidding. Not really. I think I found one. All right. Q my ND, and I'm going to even look at that. I'm going to even put the number down. Look at me.
wow. Model
And the question
employee
is-
right there.
I demand a raise.
10% for you.
Hey, man, minimum wage just went up, so
Yeah, from 0 plus 10% times 10%.
it's still 0.
Yes.
All right. Well, maybe this will be the lucky system to finally have us get out of our ships to ride some more animals. I can't wait.
Maybe that needs to be our part of our Christmas special if we do one next week.
Oh,
We'll
just riding
see.
animals around?
Yeah. I mean, next Friday is like right before our Christmas break. And so we'll see if we
Yeah, well-
feel up to do another episode that time. We don't have one scheduled right now, but so we can decide.
Let's do a poll right now.
Yeah.
Who wants us to do an episode next week? Go ahead and give us a. Can you raise your hand in this, or is it just you have to put something in the chat? Put something in the chat.
They
Say
can,
yes.
They can emote.
Or no. If you say no, that's not a good sign for us. We're like, no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't bother me again.
Don't bother me. All right. Well, so far I'm striking out with planets, but I'm going to keep going. Because the one thing I learned about studying explorers is they never give up until
They die.
they either find what they want or they die trying to get it. That's usually what happens.
They often died.
That's definitely what happened in Florida.
Yeah.
100%. It's just amazing that people kept, like, the Spanish kept coming after all those people died.
Right.
After all those expeditions were just, like, miserable failures and the leaders died. I mean,
Well, I think
like,
that some
how-
of the 1800s trips searching for the Northern Pass, like
Oh, yeah.
those
yeah,
expeditions almost all were pretty much wiped out from what I understand.
Yeah.
And yet people kept going and looking.
And you know what, Tristan?
There
Here we
wasn't
are.
one. Yeah.
So here we are. But now I think we understand. I think it's one of those things where, like, maybe, of course, like, at some point in the expedition, things get in those many expeditions, whether it was in the 1800s with the Northwest Passage or whether it was like conquistadors in the southeastern United States, what's now the southeastern United States,
Mm-hmm.
or even like Central and South America, or just the Americas in general, was at some point in those expeditions, there was literally like no other choice, right? I mean, they got to a point of no return. It was either you get back to where you started and survive,
Sure.
or
I mean, I'm not
keep
necessarily
going to try-
faulting the ones that went to look first.
yeah,
I'm faulting the ones
Just the
that
ones
went to
after.
look again and again. Yeah.
right.
That's
no, I
that's
agree.
where I'm like, what was wrong with you people?
I agree. Yeah. Yep. Well, it looks like I've tapped this out. And yeah, no, nothing here. It's going to be a none on the list.
Just a nothing.
I could hear the disappointment.
Yep.
Here in
I
your
thought that was
voice.
going to be the one.
I know. Me too. Oh, wait, you're going to put that in there? Okay. I'm gonna move that. One thing about this, too, I've gotten really good about working in spreadsheets. Maybe. like,
Maybe.
or like
There's an empty space there
I've
now.
been-
that-
yeah, as I say that. I thought you were working on that one, so I gave up. Gave up.
Other news on new discoveries in South America. There's
Oh,
actually,
are there more?
oh yeah, so there's actually, so they've started looking in a new region in Brazil. So they've done a lot of
Oh,
work
okay.
on the southern edge of the Amazon, and they found all the cultures that actually did a lot of cultivation of the landscape and changed that landscape pretty dramatically. So they started looking in a new state in Brazil, and lo and behold, it's full of people too.
Oh,
So
no kidding.
they're doing lidar, and they found this network of 35 villages.
Oh, wow.
They're all about 3 miles apart, and they said they have I think it was like 2 to 30 some mounds in each village, and it's pretty significant. And it's here's another good example of why you want to be cautious when you're reading about this stuff in the media, because you read the headlines and it basically says these villages are all arranged to celestial patterns. And if you read into the articles, at least some of them quote the archaeologists, and they say this is maybe a thing. So it's basically like
Yeah.
our indication. First indication is this is something worth looking into, basically, but we don't have any real ideas what it comes down to.
Mm.
Which, boy, that's a big difference from they mapped the stars with their villages, right?
Right. Yeah.
But still, it's an interesting article. There's a
Oh,
couple
wow.
articles about it. You can find it pretty easily,
Interesting.
and
What
pretty big
what was
find.
it? Amazon, Brazil. That's what you just.
It's
you
in
were
it's
at?
in Brazil, yeah, in the Amazon forest. So they used, I think I
I
said it.
wonder
They
if
used lidar for
yeah, I
that.
wonder that sounds like what they were showing in that show
Well, that was
that I
Colombia though.
mentioned. Oh, you're right. Or
So
maybe the show went to the Colombia, maybe they went to Brazil. I don't know. Sometimes those shows they'll go to like different places.
could be.
Yeah, it does. That looks exactly like what they were showing on that show. Well, when did they find it? In recent years? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Acre, Brazil. Yeah, and this is so interesting. Yeah, I wonder when. So that again, it's like maybe the show. Yeah, this looks very similar to the geoglyphs, just like what they showed in that show. But when in the show, and I'll have to watch it in a couple days if it's available to see like more context, because it was just a clip. But to me, it definitely seems like it's something that had already been discovered that they
Sure.
were. But it's still cool. Yeah, super neat.
But that would also be
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
neat.
classic European too, wouldn't it? We're the first ones ever to be here as you look at human remains of a human civilization, you know?
Right. Yeah. Or like the communities that live right near there are like, wow, we showed you this.
We discovered the
We showed you
Americas. No,
yeah.
there's people here already.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
I
Speaking of discovery, there's
I
a
think
large
this
ship.
radio's tapped out.
You okay? Well, I'm about to get a hostile scan here.
Okay, well then I'll move us on to another one while you're
Well,
dealing
I'm
with the
dealing with this.
hostiles.
Dealing with the hostile aliens. Maybe they're friendly.
Hmm.
Oh, nope. Oh boy, I should have upgraded.
Here we go.
Okay, I'll deal with these jokers. They started attacking me right when a group of other friendly ships came, so now I'm getting some assistance.
Just
Thank
don't
you.
shoot the wrong ones.
Yeah, I've done that before. But I was going to say, speaking of ships discovery and names of ships, I think it's maybe time to reveal the name
Of
my
yours.
spacecraft. Again, that I'm pretty sure you'll get this one right, and if you don't, then there's no hope for you.
I've surprised you before.
It's true. All right, so as always, every time I come into this game, where am I at? Hold on. Stand by. Oh, okay. I haven't even scanned the system yet. There we go. As always, every time we do No Man's Sky archaeology survey, I rename my spacecraft, not aircraft, spacecraft, after a fictional
Slash hovercraft.
spacecraft from Hovercraft, yeah, or craft.
feels
just
like he's
craft that
cheating.
flies. At this point, that just means I'm running out of I'm running out of material. uh, and I really wanted to get the Matrix in last time, so I
Yeah.
did the Matrix. But I always name it after a fictional spacecraft in a sci-fi movie or whatever, sci-fi or something. And so the name of my spacecraft for this survey day or hours or whatever session, I think is what we call it,
Yep.
is drumroll Enterprise. Which sci-fi movie or show
I
did
think
I name
that's
it
the
after?
name of a aircraft carrier.
It actually is, yes. It is indeed the name of an aircraft carrier. That's true. But it's not the sci-fi show. The name I'm looking for the name of the sci-fi show or movie or both. It's actually both. It's both of. There's your hint. It's a movie and it's a show. Actually, a couple different shows, I believe.
And
Has the
movies.
same name. And movies, yeah, several movies.
I do know this one.
I thought you would.
But I'll give all the people listening a chance.
We'll give one other, probably, bot. And if you're not a bot, I apologize for calling you a bot. Apparently,
You should
kids
tell them to
calling each
stop
other
that.
apparently, like that's an insult among the young kids nowadays. Is they call each other a bot online. I just learned this the other day. My son, someone called him a bot, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "You mean like online?"
It means you don't play very well. Because sometimes
Yeah.
you'll play in a game and some of them are controlled by bots. And you can
Mhm.
always tell they're bad. That's what it
Right.
means, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it means. Oh no, I had all my links open with all my information, and now they're gone. So I'm gonna have to go. But anyways, if you're not a bot, I apologize. It's just you seem like a bot. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as I think you're really a bot.
Cool robot.
Cool robot. Oh, no,
Okay.
God.
I have that's a new base.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Nope, nope.
Well, I don't think we're getting any guesses.
Nope.
Can't say I'm surprised.
Then I think it's from the TV show Voyager.
Is it on Voyager?
I don't think it actually
Is it on
is.
Star Trek? Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if that's true, but it might be.
It
I'm not sure.
might be briefly, but I'm not actually sure
That's
on
not
that.
the answer. That's not the answer I was looking for.
It is the incorrect answer.
That is the incorrect answer.
A New Hope?
Some people may not. Some people may. I mean, some people might not actually know this anymore, right? I mean, it's old enough.
Well,
right?
it depends on which one you're talking about.
Well, either one.
Well,
At this point,
there's
both
a new
of them are
series
kind of,
just called Enterprise now.
Is it a new series?
Yeah.
I thought it went out of.
No, it's an entirely new series. Yeah,
Is it really?
they're
Okay.
still making them.
Oh,
I don't think
okay.
they're
I didn't-
as popular as they once were, though.
Right. Yeah. Well, yes, that's what it comes from Star Trek, and it was on the original Star Trek. That was the name of the main ship featured in that show, USS Enterprise. And then the one that I'm a little bit more familiar, and I did watch Star Trek when I was younger. They would play like the replays of those original series. and
Mhm.
then they made another Star Trek series called Star Trek Next Generation, which is the one that probably
I
my
think you're
favorite
missing
one.
the animated series in between the two.
Was there an anime? I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Yes, of the original show. It's actually better than you would expect it to be.
Hmm.
I'm not saying it's
Okay.
good, but it's far better than you'd expect it to be.
Yeah. Oh, so that was the Enterprise in that one too, USS Enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it was the
okay.
original crew and everything, animated.
Oh, nice. And of course, the movies came out. The reboot of the movies and the USS Enterprise is featured in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which
yeah, a bunch
Enterprise
of
are we
different-
talking about, though? Because, there's, like, all the way up to Enterprise E. Showing my nerd cred right here.
Well, I was
NC
just
can't
talking
remember
about.
the
I was
number.
talking. Well, exactly because the original one takes place much earlier than the Star Trek Next Generation. Although I'm not. Is it by a couple hundred years or is it shorter than that? Do you
I
know?
think it's about at least 100 years. I think it's got to be 100 years because they do find an excuse to write some of the old cast in. And they're
Well, they could
they're
time
quite
travel,
old.
though, with. You just got to use a Klingon ship, right? You can time travel.
No, I don't think that they did that, or did they might have done that with one of them.
In the movie, they did where they
No,
found.
no, no.
They
I'm
went
talking.
back in
I'm
time to
talking
find the
about.
well.
Did they bring one of the original cast back using that? I don't think they did, but I could be wrong on that.
Didn't they bring in the reboot? They brought Jim back, like the old Captain Kirk.
Oh,
Like the
that
old
was
Kirk.
in one of the movies. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
they did
trapped in
something.
the ribbon thing, and Picard found him in the ribbon, and they went and
Right.
beat the bad guy. I didn't.
Mhm.
It's been a long time. I didn't like that movie very much when I saw it,
Really.
but I
Yeah,
don't
I didn't
remember much
think-
about it right now.
The director for that was oh man, what was his name? The guy that did Lost and the Star Wars reboot, and I've
Hmm.
talked about him before, and I should totally know his
You
name.
sure on that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh no, what is his name? I don't
Not
remember his
Cameron,
name.
is it? The reason that comes to
No,
mind.
no. I think that's who you guessed last time, and it's okay.
Is that just who I always guess?
you just your default is Cameron.
James Cameron.
James Cameron, who's made some good movies. J.J. Abrams.
J.
who
Abrams.
I'm thinking of. Yeah, Abrams directed that. And
Okay.
so, but yeah, it's so yeah. I didn't realize that a lot of. I knew that of course the USS Enterprise in the original Star Trek and the USS Enterprise in Next Generation were different space vessels, crafts. They just had the same name, which is not uncommon for ships' names today.
Mhm.
In fact, there's been a number of different ships called USS Enterprise through times, from aircraft carriers to sloops of war. There's even I believe there's a USS Enterprise that's still around today, although they're called USS Enterprise, but then they have like a class and then a number that goes with it, so that way you can
That's
know
the way
whether
the
they're
ships
talking about
work in the
right. Are you
sci-fi too.
talking about are you talking about the USS Enterprise that was a sloop of war that was built in 1799, or are you talking about
Mhm.
the USS Enterprise that was a carrier during World War II? So,
Right.
but yeah, there's been a number of different ships called the USS Enterprise. My favorite ship that was called USS Enterprise in real life.
Oh, in real life.
In real life, was the one built in 1799 called the USS Enterprise. I think it was a third one. I believe it was a third ship in the U.S. Navy
Hmm.
that had that name, USS Enterprise.
They've been
There were
around for a
couple
while
others
then.
before it. Yeah, there were a couple others before, dating back to the Revolutionary War. This one was actually constructed originally in Baltimore, and I'll have to go look up more information on it because I don't have it in front of me right now. But from what I recall, it has an interesting history because it was originally constructed to fight in the quasi-war with France, and so it was used for operations in that conflict. And then later on, it was actually involved in the Barbary Wars, which took place in the Mediterranean against what were called the Barbary states. These are the essentially they were pirates off the coast of Africa that were attacking American ships, and for a long time, the U.S. government was actually, and the British did the same thing too. As a matter of fact, they were paying the uh, the leaders off of these Barbary states to not attack their ships. So it was
Mm-hmm.
sort of like it was extortion essentially. It's like, if a mob boss or a gang comes to your shop and says, "Hey, pay us for protection, otherwise, your store might get roughed up." And then,
Right.
of course, if you didn't pay them, then they'd send their people to break your store up. So you paid the fee, so they just wouldn't do it. And so that's essentially what was happening. And then finally, the U.S. Began to kind of start to build a little naval force, and eventually there was a whole incident with a naval warship being captured by the Barbary States, and then the Navy actually naval personnel under Captain Stephen Decatur, who was a real famous naval officer in the history of the United States Navy, um, was able to kind of strike back. And anyway, so that was one of the first kind of international conflicts that the United States was involved in after it formed as a country following the Revolutionary War. So it was involved in that, and then later on, it I believe served during the War of 1812, and then I know one of the last things that it did was it was part of a anti-pirate, anti-slave trade operation in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico that took place in the 18 teens to around mid 1820s, and then eventually, so it served there and captured a number of pirate ships in that capacity, and then eventually it was actually lost at sea near Curacao. From what I recall, it actually grounded on a sandbar and sunk. So there's a shipwreck out there somewhere near Curacao, which is one of the islands in the Caribbean. Is this USS Enterprise, the third one, is out there somewhere. And as far as I know, it has not been discovered. Although if it ever is recovered or found, it doesn't matter if it's in international waters or if it's in waters that are owned by Curacao or any of the other or whatever. I'm not sure which. I believe it's a sovereign. I believe Curacao is a sovereign nation, I think. But anyways, it doesn't matter where it's found. It is still the property. I guess it's Curacao is still part of the Dutch. It's the it's a constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to this day. So even if it's in technically Dutch waters, it still belongs to the United States because it is a U.S. warship, and any naval vessel, any naval aircraft is still, even if it's lost at sea, it's still the property as recognized through the Sunken Shipwrecks Act, as well as through other international treaties that the United States has with many other countries. They recognize that as still being the property of the United States government. So it is protected under law if it ever is found. But yeah, so cool little.
And because of its name, you almost certainly will hear about it if it is found too. That's not.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I can just see the sensationalist articles now.
Right, right.
Like, with the USS Enterprise. But yeah, there are a number of different Enterprise ships. That's just one of them. But I will have to say, because of its connection to piracy in the Gulf and Caribbean, it is my favorite one. Although I don't believe it's what they named the ship in the series after. I don't think so, because I'm not sure which one they actually named it after.
Well, they're probably all named after each other, kind of how that works, right?
Well, I mean, in the Star Trek series.
I know, but I mean, it's probably named after the previous ones. I imagine.
That's true.
I just found Japan.
You found Japan?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's a pink and red planet named Japan.
Interesting.
Actually,
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, so I'm looking a
I'm
little
gonna
bit
look
more
at
now.
that one.
It was wrecked off the coast of Little Caracal, which is an uninhabited island belonging to Caracal, which is a constituent country in the Kingdom of the Netherlands in the Dutch Caribbean. So July 1823, it was stranded and broken up on that one of the. Actually, it's one of the islands out there, so it might actually portions of it might actually be on this island.
Oh, cool.
Be cool if they found it, man.
would
I
be
want to.
cool.
That would be now. There was one other ship from that squadron that was lost. What was called the West Indies Squadron. That was part of the anti-piracy, anti-slave trade patrol that the U.S. Congress established in 1819, and then actually was in existence all the way up until the 1840s, going into the Mexican War. It served that squadron served quite a long time. But there was one other that was also wrecked called the USS Alligator that I believe they did find archaeologically several years ago, which I don't think there's a whole lot left of it, but pretty cool connection to the Star Trek show.
Sci-fi, yes.
Possibly they share a name, so
This is a very pink planet.
which system are you in? Maybe I'll come down and join you.
I can't. I'm on the planet. I can't look right now. You could probably find me though. I should show up.
All right.
I want to look at it
Let me-
in the information tab
Mhm.
on the off chance that someone's actually recorded it and it's showing up weird again, because I could definitely see that as just being randomly generated. However, it's also a bit suspicious.
That is odd. It's a very odd name.
Yeah, for all the ones we've
What we're
seen.
used to seeing. Yeah, it's very.
And I would
strange.
expect to see things more like Japern first or something.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen a planet named after a real place.
Right.
And
That
how
we
many have we
recognize
surveyed
anyway.
at this point?
We're up to probably
100?
550 now.
Yeah, and so that's a little kind of an anomaly, statistically. This deserves further investigation.
I'm in Vun Emit.
Yeah. See, did you jump already?
No, I'm still
To
in the
another
same
system?
one.
Whatever we're on.
It says it's
in the
discovered by
kingdom.
me, and it's mapped now, so I don't see any indication that it's by a player.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
It is interesting. It's a interesting color as well.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well,
Well,
that was exciting for
yeah.
a minute.
So speaking of Star Trek for a little bit, did you watch the Lower Decks series at all? It's another new series actually that's still ongoing.
Oh no, I have not seen that or ever heard of it.
It is an animated version of Star Trek. And it's a little bit like Rick and Morty in Star Trek. A little bit.
Oh.
As far as
Does it
it's
have
kind, it's
Captain
kind of
Picard?
frantic and has he hasn't made an appearance yet, although Riker did make an appearance.
Oh, Riker did. Yeah.
But it's basically supposed to follow not the senior crew like all the other shows do. It's supposed to follow the people doing the grunt work all around the ship and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And I watched
That's
it all, and
interesting.
it's not for kids to start with. There's swearing and adult themes, so beware of that. But I overall enjoyed it. There's definitely a few episodes where I was not sure what I thought of it, and then I ended up enjoying it overall. Although there are definitely people who will tell you I am wrong. So If you do check it out, keep all that in mind. But I thought it was
Yeah, I'll
kind
have
of
to
fun.
check that out. I did not. So those are two that I just didn't know about, which shows you how much of a Star
Well, and
Trek
then there's
fan I am.
Discovery as well. Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
That's a newer one.
Yeah.
I've lost track of which one goes when, after like Deep Space Nine and Voyager, more or less.
Mm-hmm. But you would, of course, agree that the best one is the Next Generation.
I'd say Deep Space Nine is really great for its own reasons as well. I grew up a Next Generation though, so I'm pretty biased for that.
Yeah,
one.
that's why I that's why I like that one. And the other thing is, it's got the USS Enterprise in it.
Yes. So does
So I guess
Deep Space
The
Nine.
other
though,
ones.
so.
Yeah. Oh, does it really?
It makes an appearance at the very beginning. I don't know if it ever shows up again.
So when is Deep Space Nine supposed to happen in relation to like Next Generation?
It was actually
Oh, it's
running
during.
during Next Generation too.
Oh, okay.
And actually, this is after Next Generation, but Worf does get transferred over as well.
Oh yeah, I remember
Did I
you telling me
mention that? Yeah.
about that. That's right. Yeah.
And Worf is just one of my favorite characters. So
Michael, what's the actor's name? Michael something.
yeah, it's Michael something.
Michael.
You're right about that.
I just know his first name because he shares my same first name.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, he's got my name, Michael. Wait, let me look it up. I wonder what happened to him.
I feel like his name came up for something recently, but I can't remember what right now.
Worf, Star Trek actor. Apparently, that's a lot of people are interested in what happened to him. Michael Dorn. And he's still alive. Good. He's 67 years old now. Oh, he was in the film Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. And a bunch of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what he's been up to lately though.
Oh, actually, did you see? It was one of the Star Trek Next Generation movies. One I actually mostly like. It's where they go back in time chasing the Borg. With the
Oh yeah.
yeah. If you remember, if you watch that beginning, Worf actually appears on the Defiant fighting the Borg when the Enterprise shows up. And so he ends up going with them only because they pulled him off. The Defiant is actually the ship in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that gives you a bit of idea on the timeline a little bit there too.
Right, yeah. And now, if you would have not gotten the answer correct, then that would have been really bad. Since you clearly know.
I'm invested in at least in a little bit of Star Trek lore. Speaking of lore, that's a good character.
Who's Lore?
Data's brother.
Oh, that's right. I remember vaguely that. Data.
Good thing Barbara's not here. She'd be shouting nerd in chat the whole time.
That's true. She wouldn't be wrong.
She wouldn't be wrong.
Well, she wouldn't be wrong. Well, I don't see any more systems that I can get to.
Really?
I think it's tapped out for me.
Wait.
I mean, there's a couple ones, but I just don't have a drive.
Have you
I'm
moved to
looking.
the
They
new
are-
the new radio?
I don't think so. Well, that explains that.
I'm 10 deep into the new radio, so.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow. What's the name of the radio? I don't see it. Wait a minute. Current mission? No, I don't want to do that. Galactic Core. All right. Check. Oh, yeah, look at that. Well, now I know why.
Yeah. 8 prime. Oh, that's not 8. It's where the H should be an 8. It's an N. So never mind. That's
I
more
don't
like
s-
what I
I-
expected when I found Japan.
Okay. I don't see where you went. But let me just jump, and then we'll see what happens. Sometimes I have to jump, get a little closer, and then I can see where you're at. No, I've been just looking in this galaxy that apparently we already, or this system that we already tapped out.
Searching the whole time.
Yeah, look at me.
Well, at least we can be pretty sure it's finished.
That's right. I did not. You didn't miss anything. Although now there's going to be a gap in your in the Excel spreadsheet.
I can delete that.
I don't. Oh yeah, look at that. Well. Oh wait. Oh man. Looks like we did the same system. I'll just delete mine. Whoops.
Ah,
That's what I get for paying attention.
did you move? Did you jump?
I just jumped, yeah.
But you
So
don't know
by
where
the
I'm
time I
at.
get there. No, but I'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Well, I don't see you right now either.
Well, that's because I jumped, right?
Right. But I'm not sure where you jumped to is what I'm saying.
I'm not sure either. Where did you? What? Galactic core. Yeah, I don't see where you went. Let me look around for a little bit. What's the name of the system? I guess it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's typed. It's Oikavost.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see.
Because they're impossible to pronounce, to me anyway.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's all right. I'll just keep looking.
Yeah, by
I'm
the
not
time
sure
you
why
do
I don't-
find it, it'll be done for the day.
Probably, yeah, most likely. If you ever need to know how to get out of doing survey work, CRM archaeologist, just tell your boss you got lost.
I've done that, actually. Not intentionally, I swear. But I did.
By the
it did
time you
happen
get
to
there,
me.
you're like, oh, you guys did everything. You didn't leave any work for me. Oh man. Oh well, I guess I go back to the hotel.
It's actually one of my earliest examples of like, this is the kind of boss I would want to be someday. Because it was like my second project I'd ever been on. And we're just doing some shovel testing in this open field in Iowa. And he pulls over the van and says, okay, see those flags across the way? Just walk towards that direction. You'll see some pin flags and just dig some holes there and then meet us down in the valley. And I said, great, because I didn't want to actually say, I don't know what I'm doing. And I walked around for, I swear it had to have been like 45 minutes to an hour, and I could not find them. And I had to walk all the way down to the bottom, and I was just so like, oh gosh, I'm so like nervous and everything. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't find him. He said, nope, I should have made sure you knew what you're looking for. And he drove me up
Oh,
there, no
wow.
problem. And I'm like,
Oh wow.
that's cool. So
Yeah. Yeah, he took responsibility.
yeah,
That's a rare breed.
yeah, exactly. It's like, I want to make sure, remember this.
Yeah.
Not that I'm in charge of anyone still, but you know, just in
Right.
case.
Yeah. Uh huh. Well, I'm still looking around.
Well, you got
And,
5
I
minutes.
don't. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much totally lost.
Well, good thing it actually will warp you to me next time we start.
That's true. Yeah, I'll pay attention next time. And I bet you never had a situation where you couldn't find the flags again.
No, I think that's there almost certainly are some flags out there somewhere. I can't think of an
Yeah.
exact example right now, but I can't imagine, considering all the underbrush and things we've been through, we had to have missed some at some point.
Well, you know, it happens to the best of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am totally have no idea.
We've had cases where we're supposed to be doing shovel tests every 10 meters and like maybe 7 lines through this whole area. But people, because of the brush and getting confused on which one they're looking for, end up walking towards the wrong one, so they'll actually cross each other. The holes
Oh,
will cross
wow.
each other as they're digging through, and that's not good. But it's a kind of a symptom of that sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I at? Okay. And the bosses who got really angry at that were examples of ones that I did not want to emulate. So you get examples of both in life, in general, I suppose. tell
Luckily,
you
I
about
haven't
this
had too many experiences
Tell me
with
about this
bad
guy who I worked for at this museum, though. He was awful.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Real, real jerk.
yeah. For those who aren't aware, I worked
Oh,
in Mike's museum
that's
for
me.
about a year and a half.
Best experience of his life.
Actually, it was pretty awesome.
He's gonna do what you want. Come in
I
when
did-
you want.
I did a fair amount of
You want-
thesis work there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody. There's many of the theses have been written
Yeah,
there.
when it was good because there were just enough people coming in that I had to like put away the Netflix sometimes and get to work. So I wasn't just sitting there and like that was actually good.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, for a while, we were getting pretty steady customers. I forget why, but like
Yeah.
it was like
Never quite figured out the reasons for that.
well, and I don't.
you
Are
know.
you still doing it? But I swear it was because we had the sign across in the
Oh, yeah, the
village pointed
signs,
at the sign hung on the side of our building.
Yeah.
and
I think that
could
definitely
swear that was what
helped.
it was.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. It had to have been better than it was before because the people were in the village, so
Right.
you have that foot traffic. Whereas the signs out front on that busy main street, that's a dangerous road to
Right.
cross.
Yeah.
So if you're not already walking around, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to risk being hit either.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think that was definitely part of it for sure. And I have no idea where you're at, so I went ahead and landed on a planet.
You find yourself an animal to console yourself.
No, I've landed at the wrong time on this planet. That's for sure. But that's okay.
Oops.
At least I was able to stretch my legs, my guy's legs.
And I jumped in on a pirate attack, of course. So
Yeah, that's how it goes.
in space, apparently.
In this space, anyways.
Yeah. I think I've got my laser shotgun.
Yeah, it's a nice. I've seen that thing in action.
Yeah. It makes a big difference.
Although I am considered a legend at destroying ships. 207 starships that I've destroyed.
Oops. Problem with laser shotguns is friendly ships getting in the way.
It's their fault.
Right? It's always been my attitude.
Mm.
All right. Time to hopefully. Okay. Well, I've been trying to get out of combat so I can log out.
No, you have to destroy the pirates first.
You can just run away, but sometimes that's a pain.
Yeah.
There.
you're doing that, I'm gonna find an animal. Because I'm so lost that I might as well.
Right. Find yourself a friend.
Mm-hmm. Might as well do something productive.
All right, so I'm bringing us in for a landing, and I'm going to save it, and we'll be able to call it. So thanks, everyone, for joining us for session, I think we're on 16 of No Man's Sky Archaeological
Wow, is it
Survey.
16?
Yep, so we've been at this
Wow.
for a while. So we may be back next week. We'll decide if you want to see our plans or whatever. I'll have it on Twitch, or we'll also have an event on Facebook so you can see for yourself. Otherwise, the announcement will come up if you follow us. And if you want to see previous episodes of this or any other of our programs that we do, either on Twitch or live video of archaeological sites, Hike with Mike is one of our more popular ones, for example. You can check out our YouTube. Just look up Florida Public Archaeology Network and we should come up, and we've got quite a few videos on there for you as well. So anyway, thanks all, and we'll see you next time.